YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Buddha, back for another last Cloudia video, hopefully a quick one. I am very late into making this video. You guys know I was away for a little bit, returning, getting familiar with the latest Murren update, and with him brought his event, Spirit of an Old Engineer, and I figured I would still go over it, my thoughts on the event and the trading space, what to prioritize at what stage in the game you are, hopefully to help out newbies. We have a crafting event. As I mentioned, when you open it up, you will see that big craft button in the top left of the menu, and it kind of throws some people off because we're accustomed to just clicking on stages and grinding them mindlessly, progressing to the last one, which is usually what we grind for whatever materials we're searching for. However, these crafting events function a bit differently, so when you start off, all you're going to have is this weapon incomplete, right? Get these done for sure, which is going to unlock the rest of these stages that you can take on. The bonus challenge, pretty important to do 3 times a day before soft reset. Remember, there's 2 resets in Last Cloudia. There's a soft reset and then there's a hard reset, both at different times depending on where you are in the world. So this resets at soft reset. So for me, I'm recording this at 10 a.m. Eastern. This will reset at 11 a.m. So in just about an hour, where you can redo it. Before even looking at each of these individual stages, let's go ahead and click the craft button. Open up the first tab we can see, which is craft. This is going to give us the ability to craft the 3 pieces of gear that they allow us to in this event, and then also below that craft the raw materials, we can call them, since these are the individual materials that are going to make up what we need to craft these actual pieces of equipment. And my recommendation is to craft these pieces of gear before we start thinking about what we're going to look at next. And just to shout it out, this axe right here, the Gizmo Axe Galf, extremely good weapon for early game players that have a no attribute physical attacker. Maybe you're super early, you were able to pull Ardeen, while he typically wants to run a sword and machine when you approach end game. The fact that this axe gives a 15% damage modifier to no attribute physical attack damage is nothing to sleep on, and it gives some great HP and STR stats. So very pleasant to see a nice piece of gear offered as a free to grind event equipment that pretty much any level of player can achieve in this event. The armor is okay, it's fine, it's a good piece of gear if you want to run it on your Shift Roland and you're still pretty early game, you don't have end game gear. I did grind it up on my free to play alt first so I could use it on Shift Roland. And then Fairway engine is just a nice accessory that gives you auto haste. Well, not auto haste, it gives you fast haste for 40 seconds. So just fine, nothing too crazy, nothing like the axe. The axe stands out above the rest of these craftable pieces of equipment. Don't forget, we are going to get more equipment, 2 more pieces added to this on Thursday, right? Part 2 of this update. So you'll want to catch up on this crafting grind sooner rather than later if you've kind of been sleeping on it. But if we drop down the menu, we can see how much of each of these individual pieces of raw material are needed to finish the crafting. And just because I was able to farm it up, you can see I have enough magic transmitters, enough mana sensors to craft the armor and finish out the pieces of gear on my main account. It is a 5-star. So there we go. We can see I've crafted it 1 out of 1 times. That's as much as you can do. So we've got this. We're ready for part 2. And now all that's left is the ability to craft these raw materials, which do need individual materials to craft each one of these. That is where these stages come in, and Last Cloudia has done a very good job with these crafting events. They've put the actual piece of material you can grind from each stage on the side of this, which is super helpful visually. However, I think for me personally, the easiest thing to do is, depending on which one you want to do, just drop down the menu. I want to work on my anti-shock metals, click the magnifying glass, and then go obviously to the stage that's going to yield you the most. Typically these hard stages, I tend to just click the first one. If you want to get super efficient with it, you can see that there are multiple stages that offer the base materials to create those raw materials. and you can probably be a little more efficient if you know you need 2 types of base materials for whatever raw material you're making. If you need silicarcanium, but you don't need anti-shock and you do need hyperdural, right, you'll definitely want to make sure to grind the ancient treasure lie, so you can be a little efficient if you just plan out your grinding, take that extra step to observe exactly what materials you are looking for. The materials held tab right under crafting just shows you those base mats that you can then create raw mats from, which then allow you to make the inventions. But further grinding of these events gets more relevant when we look at the trading space, because as you can see, for some items you can snag here, you do need all 3, like Murren's Prism if you were able to get him through tickets or through crystals if you summoned for him. You will need all 3 of your raw materials in order to buy this. Same with more premium gacha tickets. And then you start to see things acquirable by 1 of the raw mats that you will have to continue to farm if you want to get it from the trade shop. There's some good stuff in here. Of course, lights are okay for any new players. Mother Soul's always a good snag extra. Mega clusters if you don't feel like grinding multiplayer stages. It's nice that they give us this multiplayer-less way to acquire the 5-star materials here for the ability board. But I would heavily recommend, maybe after you get those pieces of gear from the event crafting tab, focus on getting ability board mats, right? I've been talking to a lot of players that are saying, yo, I'm like using certain skills, it's not really helping me deal certain damage. Well, yeah, it's because one skill is never going to make a difference, but unlocking your unit's ability board is going to unlock a list of different skills that, when combined, bring out a unit's performance to their full potential. So if you're lacking in a certain cluster to unlock some very good skills in the ability board, if you're lacking some crystals, I would keep your eye whenever there are these events to grind these types of materials, maybe before you decide to try and go for a Murren Prism, depending on where you are in the game. If you don't even have Murren, I would say a Prism is not as much of a priority as getting your main carry unit or one of your core carry units up to their full potential ASAP, because that's going to help you overcome a lot of different hurdles. Yes, there are other ways to grind these stages, but me personally, I like the road of least resistance, and sometimes I don't want to leave an auto farm going for multiple days when I could go in these kinds of event shops and snag the materials to get the results I want that much more quickly. If ability boards aren't really your main concern anymore, you've built up 1, 2, maybe 3 of your core units and you can get through basically anything, I would then, after you get the limited things like the Prism, like the tickets if you want, mega clusters maybe I'd prioritize, but what I will say is the Alchemigites I would also really keep in mind depending on where you're at in the game, because they did bring back guaranteed equipment enhancing in the Alchemy lab. They do this periodically as well with these Alchemigites. If we go to equipment enhancement in the limited tab, they'll put a list of pieces of gear that typically you'll find in the weapon tab for these very scarce materials. They don't look quite as scarce on my account, but as an endgame player, you have ways to get these. But as a new to mid to even early late game players, these weapon shards, equipment shards, these different types of enhancement materials, they're not as easily acquirable, especially when you can just farm this event, get these Alchemigites, and then just upgrade your equipment 100% every single level that's available. I know that once I hit 400, I will be upgrading Mecha Cannon Veldis right here. Very good weapon that this event's actually introducing as being able to plus 40. However, I do know Covert Gun Trishula and the Bolt Cannon Blaines from the UR Arc Solaris, those Arc Ether rewards are available in here. And the fact that you can just get those up to plus 40 guaranteed every single level 100% with these Alchemigites is definitely something you don't want to sleep on. Now, for those of you who don't have those Arc Ether rewards, I wouldn't stress trying to get like Alchemigites and that being your priority, because it's just quite pointless. Once this event goes away, you'll have to wait until they bring around an entirely new event that's going to allow you to upgrade those pieces of gear, and we won't see that for months down the road. So if you can upgrade it, you do have it available. You've been struggling to have the materials in the main alchemy enhancement tabs. This is where you want to take advantage of upgrading your equipment. I'm almost there. About 32 more Alchemigites, and I'll get Mecha of Eldis upgraded immediately. This was also very interesting because we see that a piece of paid gear unique to Swordmagineer Lilibet is available to be enhanced. This is the first ever paid gear that we can plus 40, which I did mention in yesterday's summons video, makes the possibility of God Forging paid gear that much more likely, since plus 40ing weapons is the first step of making a God Forged weapon. So even things like Mecha of Eldis, this now being able to get to plus 40, we'll wait and see. That's a pure speculation. For now, what's important is making sure to take advantage of these 100% guaranteed equipment enhancement options when they're around, depending on where you're at in the game and what you have in the game. And that's basically the event. Real short and simple. Just becomes a grind fest once you unlock all of these available quests. I'll just jump into one to show you. Especially for newer game players, make sure to be on the lookout for Beast Hunter friends, especially Chromes, if you ever come across a Chrome that's level 110, fully built out. This is the team I'm running right now, right? Of course, as a new game player, you're not going to have built up event units ready to go. However, as you approach end game status and you build up more units, you will be able to take advantage of these expedited ways of grinding these events. So we'll jump in. We'll go ahead and increase our orb count a little bit here just to show off. These are 2 wave stages. So that's why it's always important to have 2 Beast Hunters, but if you can only bring 1 because you don't have your Beast Hunter ready to go yet, of course, use what you have available to you. We'll go ahead, Beast Hunter this first wave, and then just start clearing it out. Move on to the second wave. And you'll notice that when we move into the clear screen, there's not going to be a lot of actual drops that we see in the drop table. Because with these crafting events, they chose to show the drops in a much different format. This has always been like this as far as I'm aware. I started a year and a half into the global release, so when I experienced my first crafting event, it was the same as this. But Beast Hunter still does affect these types of drops, if I'm not mistaken. So we can see that Beast Hunter did give us these Alchemigites, the extra 4. Usually you'll just get 2 drops, but we were able to get 4 here because of Beast Hunter. But then you see these clear rewards. We have these bonus materials from running Shift Merity. She's one of those special event units. Now, here's the thing. I don't actually know if Beast Hunter affects those drops, so don't take my word for it. However, always be safe. Try and find a Beast Hunter friend. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just run the event, get the materials that you can, and the mission point rewards that you can in order to get this list of great items to acquire. But whenever you can bring a Beast Hunter into these types of events, the better. That's all I got for you this time, guys. Like, subscribe, bell noties if you learned something. If this video was helpful, maybe helped you reprioritize your focus on how to grind this event, what to look for, and how to start the grinding process. If you've been a little intimidated as a new player here, I think it's important to refresh how to approach these crafting events when they drop, since they do come around every so often. And we had the 3-year anniversary bring in an influx of new players, which was great. Shift Merity Showcase incoming. I'm going to work on that. I think I'm going to switch up the format a little bit, maybe try and take down the total time so it's not in between that 40-minute and hour-long video anymore. We'll see how it goes, so be on the lookout for that. And, as we always say, work hard, play hard. See you in the next video.